Hi, it's Roger here with an episode of Entrepreneur TV all the way from Tokyo, Japan. Here is the view out our window here. So here we are in Japan. We just had a 3-day event and I have a question for you, which was a question also at the event, which is, what if you knew everything was going to change? Like, imagine if you were 20 years ago in the year 1999 and at a time when everyone was getting excited about all these kind of like media companies that become .com companies like Yahoo and InfoSeek. At that same time, you were Jeff Bezos sitting there with the concept of Amazon thinking, okay, in the future, people are going to be buying in a very different way, and I want to be at the front of that trend. And then today, he's got $1 trillion business. What if you were 10 years ago? You know, this is like 2009, just when the global financial crisis was in full swing, and while everyone was panicking, everyone was worried about what to do with their assets, you thought, well, what if the future isn't even about the asset? Maybe we're going to actually treat assets differently, and you started Uber or Airbnb or any of the companies that actually took on our biggest areas of spend, like the food delivery companies. I mean, we have seen all these billion-dollar businesses get started by people who just 10 years ago were just thinking a little bit differently. Well, we're in exactly the same point today. It's now 2019, and we are at the cusp of Society 5.0, when we're going to see this digital layer actually on all businesses, just like when you got an electric layer on all businesses at the turn of the last century. And so what does it actually mean, right? So I was actually I'm going to show you some of my slides here, because when I was showing this here in Japan, most of the people here in Japan weren't even aware of just how important Society 5.0 was to their government, because it hadn't been that well publicized, even though it's going to be the main theme at the G20, which is coming up. And let me just show you some of these slides to give you a bit of an idea of this, and I'll make sure I give you 6 practical ways that Society 5.0 is different from 4.0. So first of all, what does it even mean, right? So you can see here, this is from the World Economic Forum. This is an article, Modern Society Has Reached Its Limits, Society 5.0 will liberate us, which is all an article about how we are moving into this imagination society where there are no limits, right? Think of us having superpowers, and where it all leads to this whole new value creation on a global scale, right? So this is where we can actually achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see here on this slide, it actually shows the 17 global goals and linking them to all the technology coming our way. And when we start thinking very, very differently about the way we're collaborating and the way we're getting real-time data and the way we're actually connecting all of our trade to all of the contribution that we want to be making, that really transforms everything. Here, by the way, is the slide which shows why it's even called Society 5.0. So you can see here, like, the whole idea that every time there's been a massive technological shift, it's then resulted in a totally new consciousness for society as well. So hunter-gatherer society was Society 1.0. Then we went to Society 2.0, which is agrarian society. Society 3.0, industrial society. 4.0, information society. And now we're kind of moving into the impact or imagination society. And this is where we actually have a digital layer across all parts of our lives, where everything gets automated, including a lot of our thinking, which is where artificial intelligence comes in. And if you actually break that down into the befores and afters, you can see here Society 4.0 is all about, think of it like binary thinking, right? It's either or, it's true or false, right? And it's Republican or Democrat. It's like we've all got into this very divisive world because we think it has to be one way or the other, which frankly is how computers get coded, right? As long as it's a digital computer. The moment it becomes a quantum computer, you go from binary thinking to quantum thinking, which is where you can now actually find a middle road or a way for us to actually connect with each other in very, very creative and new ways. And we're seeing as a result of this massive shift from concentration, where there's this wealth gap taking place, to decentralization, from big, high environmental impact to now sustainability. And this is a choice for us to make, as entrepreneurs, as to whether we go down this pathway. This slide here, which is all about how Society 5.0 is taking place here in Japan as a theme of the B20 and the G20, or this slide here, which is from TechCrunch, which actually is all around how we can be using this as entrepreneurs for a totally new blueprint to support the way that we think differently about our seamless connection to all the data in the world, to make instant decisions that can actually help us to grow and transform where we're at and where we're going. This is the real power of Society 5.0. So what does it really mean for you? Here's a slide which I'm going to come back to a few times because it really explains best how Society 4.0, which is all about having to choose between digital or thinking about the world as one in which you're separate from the technology, to 5.0, where the full thing is fully integrated. Take the idea of mobile screen time, right? Like if you're a business like Facebook, Facebook business is very much a 4.0 business. It's like, well, we're a digital business. We've got to take people off the offline world, put them into the online world, which means that it's one or the other, right? So if you've got your teenagers spending time on their mobile phone, it means they're not actually putting any attention to the real world. Whereas with Entrepreneur 5.0, that's no longer the case. The digital layer is about the fact that we are not even having to look at the screen. You know, it might be something where through a sensor we're connecting to this information. It might be, you know, through new AR goggles that we have on, that we're actually looking at a scene and actually having an enhanced version of society as a result of this digital layer that we have as well. So we're combining the two, where you're not online or offline, you're actually both at the same time. And it becomes a whole new type of reality that we're living in, which I call hyper reality. If you think about high tech and the idea that you have to be a business which is an online business like YouTube or like Facebook or Instagram, which are all 4.0 businesses, to 5.0, which is Amazon, where Amazon goes and buys over Whole Foods, which Whole Foods is not an online business, but they know by putting a digital layer over Whole Foods is going to allow the whole business to be more successful. So like our platform, Genius U, is not like an online training portal where you just go to look at online training. It actually allows mentors and events, people running events, trainers to be able to enhance the experience at the event or the experience in their mentoring by giving them a digital layer with all the tools that we're providing, that they can actually then see how their student is doing, you know, where they've got to on the course, and then actually go through it with them with the videos or with the location-based tracking at the event. All these kind of things are all part and parcel of thinking very differently about no longer is it mobile or is it desktop, is it online or is it offline, but where you're actually mobile screen, digital screen, and it's all high tech and high touch together. Influencer and integrator is a really interesting one. Influencer is where you are thinking that the only way for me to get out there and have an influence in the world is that I've got to build an image around myself. And we can see this with the Instagrammers and with the YouTubers. So many of them are just like, they're getting fatigued because they're going so crazy trying to beat the algorithms to get lots of people to come and follow them without necessarily actually making the money. Some do, but a lot of them don't. So what's an integrator instead? An integrator is someone who says, well, rather than me going out and trying to create this brand and create this image where I'm losing trust in exactly the same way, that, in fact, here's some slides on the upcoming virtual influencers that are actually out there right now, including here in Japan, where you can't even trust the influencers anymore because even they're becoming virtual. If you actually then say, well, then who do I want to trust? It's almost always those integrators, the ones that are at integrating in real life, who they are, what they stand for. This is not wrapping up someone in a brand, it's stripping them down to the core of their essence, of their true authentic identity. And we see that in, for example, the schooling system, where we're actually going right now from like, you know, big classes and big MOOCs where people have no actual connection through to now micro schools, where the likes of Cottage Class are giving you the opportunity to find any teacher anywhere who comes with the best recommendation. That person is an integrator, not an influencer. There's someone who's integrating all of their learning, all of their knowledge into a way packaged up to really support their students in a way that those students become students for life. And those students are coming and paying the money, and you'd much rather have, you know, 50 students that are actually going to be paying you than 50,000 followers who are paying you nothing, right? Unicorns and zebras. I'm going to go through these next three because I think they're really important for any of you who've got larger businesses right now. And for those of you thinking of growing a large business over the next 10 years. A unicorn, you can see on this slide here, is all about an unsustainable model where you are paying for your growth, which is funded by VCs. And so you have to grow like crazy. If you can't close the next round, then it's all over. I believe we're coming up for a downturn soon, so that's a major challenge for people who are burning through cash to try and grow their business. And it's very, very different from a zebra. A zebra is sustainable from day one. It's already profitable. It doesn't need to go out and raise cash because it's doing it internally. So as an example, our entrepreneur resorts business, we designed that in such a way that we could acquire other resorts, beach clubs, centers which are profitable and make them more profitable. And then that allows us to have the same kind of a growth that a unicorn would have, but without having to be paying for market share, because we're acquiring the market share as we go. If you take the idea of purpose-driven and purpose-centered, think of purpose-driven as Lego. saying, we don't believe we should have plastic Lego blocks anymore. So we've got a 10 or 20 year plan to get rid of our Lego blocks, right? As opposed to Starbucks saying, we don't believe in plastic straws, so we're going to change them tomorrow, right? Like one of them is driven to some future. One of them, you actually are making the change now. And you might think, oh yeah, big companies, they do that all the time. But we do it too. If you right now have got some kind of a purpose that you're putting off because you need to go and make money first in your business, you're being purpose driven. You might say, my purpose is spend more time with my kids. Well, after I've made a bit more money, then I can go do that. And then you miss the next couple of years while you're doing that. Or, my big purpose is to go out and end poverty, right? But I'm going to do that after I actually made enough money to be able to go do that. And so you put that off for 10 years. Whereas purpose centers, you do something right now today that's going to make that difference, all right? And we're working with so many different amazing groups around the world that are doing that. B1G1 that we're playing the world game with is a perfect example of this, where every single transaction, every single day is already giving to your purpose. So that's really important that we're actually now living in the now and seeing that Entrepreneur 5.0, Society 5.0 allows us to do that with real-time data. And the final one, super important, I've been writing a little about this as well, venture capital compared to venture builder, right? So this is the idea that with venture capital, you are waiting for someone to give you money, a funder of some sort that then funds the founder. And whereas the funder is the one who gives the money, the founder is the one who starts the business. You've then got the third step, which is the farmer, who's the one who can scale the business. And because this is such a bad model that VCs will only expect 1 in 10 of their companies they invest in will be successful, it's a dying model, right? It can't continue, it can't be sustained. Whereas if you take the venture builder model, it's a totally different model. So this is a model where you are able to take the person who's doing the funding, and that person can scale the business as well. So they're not just a funder, they're the farmer, and they're building the business. And there's some amazing examples of venture builders out there that are actually doing this. And then, of course, the founder can be part of that whole growth, but doesn't need to be the one who's figured out how to grow the business, because they may never have done that before. And so we're seeing venture builder models everywhere. Like a lot of the biggest companies in the world, Google, Apple, they're all venture builders that are constantly acquiring new companies. Apple buys like a new company like every second week, which is phenomenal. And that's how they're getting through a lot of their growth. And they can still be building their cash flows. They're doing it because they're building, in many cases, and buying in many cases, companies that themselves become very profitable and become very cash flow positive as well. So are you following the right models? Are you following the models that allow you to be more of an Entrepreneur 5.0 company, which is a far more sustainable company, which allows you to be purpose driven and now purpose centered in the things that you do? And more importantly, are you preparing yourself for the shift that's going to be happening in all businesses as we're going forward as well? So I just wanted to share just a little bit of an insight from our Japan event, where we are going to be back here next year for our Tokyo 2020 Olympics. If you've not yet joined our Entrepreneur 5.0 training course, we've got a free course coming up. Links down below. Love to have you come on board. It's starting on 20th of June, which is the same day as the G20 Summit. And I look forward to catching up with you in the coming videos, where we're going to go deeper on this next 10 years and how you get ready for 2020. Leave any comments below. Would love to hear from you if you have had some insights from the things I've shared here. Let me know where you are in the world, and I will connect up with you in my next video. Bye.